Last month, my fiancée Faye and I went to her parents' cabin in Pikes Peak, Colorado, and had a set of extremely weird and terrifying experiences. We found an old dream catcher on a tree in the woods out back, and at night, we heard a series of unsettling voices calling out from the forest. At first, we thought that someone was messing with us, but then the voices began to take on recognizable traits. We heard Faye's grandfather calling out for help. He's been dead since 2012. And my mother laughing. She lives 700 miles away. Faye got sick and began talking in her sleep. And at one point, the voice of a woman outside began to repeat some of the things that Faye was mumbling, as though they were communicating. I documented the entire experience on No Sleep and received overwhelming support from fellow Redditors. Thousands of people have gotten involved with helping us out. Everything has been going really great, up until a few days ago. I'm sorry I haven't posted about this matter in a while, but Faye and I have been trying to forget. Especially with her weird sleep disorder, the best course of action for us was to try to bury what happened and move on with our lives. The more upset or stressed out that she becomes, the more she sleepwalks and sleep talks, and that's when the scary things happen. For those of you that haven't read the prior stories, my fiancée has suffered from extensive sleep disturbances since she was 5. She has night terrors and is an accomplished sleepwalker. Long story short, some sort of entity became fixated upon her while we were at the cabin in Colorado and made several attempts to coax her into the woods. When those attempts failed, it came after me. It followed us home to California and tried to get into our house at night by communicating with Faye while she sleepwalked. We were both exposed to whatever it was, to the point that it made us ill. A family friend, Nathan, essentially forced us to puke our guts out in a spiritual purging process, although I wish he'd told us first because we destroyed my living room carpet. We thought it was over. Faye went back to normal and returned to her playful, funny self. She got her strength back, and not just physically, but the strength of her personality returned as well. She's been feisty and won't put up with any of my shit, which was a great sign that she was feeling better. And she's been wearing her engagement ring. It hasn't left her finger since we got it back. But 2 nights ago, weird things started to happen. I absolutely dread writing this because I know that by paying attention to it, I risk exacerbating the situation. The part of the carpet where we'd lost our lunch is permanently stained, and rather dark, because I couldn't afford to get a decent carpet cleaner out in time. When we were watching and crying through the new Game of Thrones on Sunday, Faye pointed out that the stain looked like the shape of a man. It's about 3 feet long, and basically looks like some kind of 2-dimensional troll. We made some Rorschach jokes about it, then went to bed. I rolled over in the middle of the night to put my hand on Faye's back, and the second I touched that empty space on the bed, 1,000 horrible thoughts rushed through my head. Faye hasn't sleepwalked since the thing started to settle down, and I feared that this was an omen that our visitor had returned. I found her downstairs. She was sitting in the dark, spine straight, right in front of the TV. It was off. Her eyes were closed, but she was running her fingers across the stain on the carpet, whispering to it, and giggling. I raced over and threw the light on, foregoing my rule of never waking her up abruptly from a bout of sleepwalking. I just didn't want things to happen again. I couldn't accept it. Just before I shook her awake, she said, "How could I forget?" She came to and had no idea where she was. She seemed unusually upset that I'd woken her up, as if she were in the middle of a very good dream, but then appeared frightened when I told her what was happening. I asked if she remembered anything, but she said no. I can't tell if she lied to me. On our way up the stairs, she inexplicably vomited all over the wall. It was the same dark brown, black color as when Nathan poisoned us. At this point, I was completely freaking out. I tried to keep my cool and helped Faye into bed, got her some water, and made sure that she was all right. She was absolutely fine and couldn't explain why she puked. Then, I shut off the light, closed the bedroom door, and spent about a half an hour trying to clean the goddamn wall off. I've mentioned in my previous posts that I'm an emetophobe, so cleaning vomit is basically the worst form of punishment I can imagine. But something distracted me from the horrid stench. No matter how hard I scrubbed, the stain would not come out, and it had splattered roughly in the shape of a man. Because of the fact that Faye was standing halfway up the stairs and barfed down the wall, this time the stain was much longer than the one in the carpet, almost 5 feet tall. When I finally got in bed, Faye was still awake, and she was kind enough to give me a really nice shoulder rub as I laid there in a heap. I was nauseated and terrified. She tried to reassure me, but we both knew what was happening. Whatever it is that's fascinated with her, it's back. Or it never left. I don't know how long we sat there talking, but eventually I passed out, Faye lying in my arms. She said a few more things in her sleep, but I could never quite catch them. I was just too tired. The next day, I tried to reach out to Nathan, but he wasn't answering his phone. I had to work, so I didn't see Faye all day, and I got home before she did, so I spent several hours jumping at every sound inside while grading my students' final papers. When she did get home, she said she'd felt sick all day and just wanted to go to sleep, so she went upstairs and showered and then got into bed. Around 10:30 p.m., I shut off my laptop and headed upstairs. Faye was sitting on the bed, feet on the ground, staring out the open window into the woods across the street. I gently laid her down, rubbed her back until she snored. That's the only way to guarantee she won't get up for a while. And inspected the whole house. I don't know if I'm just freaking myself out or if I'm tired, but the vomit stain seems bigger now than they were before. I'm calling a guy tomorrow to do a professional cleaning, but I'm pissed because I know I'm going to get stuck with a $200 bill for the job. I checked the backyard and didn't see anything, then made sure that the front door was locked and all the windows were sealed tight. The last window I checked was the one in the guest room, the one which Faye had drawn the number 5 backwards on while sleepwalking. I stood there for a long time. It was late and dark, and all of the memories of last month's event just kept cycling through my mind over and over. I felt dizzy and sleepy, almost hypnotized. It was a strange feeling, an ineffable mixture of strange relaxation and terror. I cannot explain to you why I did this, but without even thinking about it, I reached out my hand and lazily drew a backwards 5 on the window. And in that tiny little moment, I saw something move behind the trees across the street. Faye abruptly burst into sleep laughter from down the hall. As I walked back to the bedroom in the dark, I could hear her giggling the entire way. Nothing else to report for now. It's 10:31 p.m. as I write this, and I'm gonna go to sleep. I'll update if there are any new developments, but I pray there aren't any. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Irrational Fears. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher, anywhere that you can to get updates on Irrational Fears and the 31 Days of Horror. And I'll see you guys tomorrow so that we can find out together what scares you.